going up. Elevator systems. Bowen family systems theory in brief for a life of learning. Welcome to season 2 of Elevator Systems, where this season we are giving our elevator pitches of the 8 concepts of Bowen family systems theory. For our first episode, we're going back to triangles, and this time we're looking at what inside and outside positions are in triangles. My name is Dixie Vandersloos. I'm the host and creator of Elevator Systems. Katie White is here again this season. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Our first guest of the season is Kathleen Cotter Cauley. Kathleen is a licensed marriage and family therapist and has a private practice in both Virginia and Florida. She's been a faculty member of the Bowen Center since 2012. Kathleen was involved in founding the Florida Family Research Network and has been on the faculty of Extraordinary Leadership and Systems Leadership seminars. Still talking, there's more to say. Her thinking on triangles has been published in the book Triangles, Bowen Family Systems Perspectives by, there it is, Peter, is it Teitelman? Is that how you say his last name? By Peter Teitelman. She's been a part of review boards dealing with sex abuse scandals in the Catholic Church. She's worked with guide dogs for 30 years. She's been married for almost 40 years, is a stepmom and a grandma. It's great to see your face, Kathleen, to have you here. Your bio highlights many diverse things on triangles. And yeah, I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
I'd say enough about triangles. I think we'll have fun.
Yeah.
So today we're talking about the concept of triangles, and we did have an episode about this last season with Dr. Jenny Brown, and we will link to that. But today we're looking at a specific piece of triangles and, of course, systems thinking. It's going to lead to many other things. But Kathleen, do you want to give us your elevator pitch about inside and outside positions in triangles?
I can. In fact, first I want to say that I love the way that your show starts and the way that it ends. It says, "Let's go out," going out. And it's so
you listen till the end.
of Bowen theory, that the planning happens in the office of the coach or the mind of the person, and then we go out into the world and live it out. So I just think it's a very creative and colorful way.
Awesome.
All right, so here's my pitch. There's so many ways it could have gone. I'm going to say that triangles activate under conditions of anxiety. We live in them. They calm us down. They stir us up. And the outside position includes management of heightened tension in ourselves that we have to tolerate, this uncomfortable feeling, staying in the viewing stand while relating to others. So it gets to differentiation of self, where it's us and the other in many, many triangles all at once.
Right.
So a little more complicated, but triangles are complicated. That's my longish pitch.
Excellent.
You're in good company with a long pitch.
Longish pitch.
So we'll go through each of our pitches and then we'll have some, what do we notice? So Katie, why don't you put yours out?
Yeah, I'm happy to. I thought about maybe having a little fun about this. So I have a sentence and then I want to put some questions out there. So I believe this inside and outside part of triangles describes that automatic regulatory function of the system that Kathleen just talked about, that fluctuates with the tension within the system. And it's this constant moving piece. I always picture these, like dancing and all these parts moving together as people move towards or away from another. And I thought I'd throw some questions out there in my description. Mm-hmm. So one of the ways I think about this is, do you find yourself in the know? One of the ways to measure an inside position, are you in the know in the family? I love being in the know in the family. Are you feeling love and attention? I mean, I think that's another way to measure that inside. Or are you watching it all from the stands? Are you sitting back, looking at what's going on? And then I'm going to throw one little question in there at the end, which one do you like better? And Does it depend on what's going on? So I always joke that I like being in the know until the know gets a little too hot, and then I'm happy to let
Right.
other people take it on.
Right.
So that's my little just fun look at inside and outside positions. Dixie, what have you got for us?
Yeah, my pitch is, I mean, I'm always struck working with clients is that triangles, they just seem to get it immediately. And so my pitch is actually just a whole bunch of phrases that people already use that kind of highlight these two positions. So the idea of taking sides, it was 2 against 1. They were ganging up on me, us versus them, on the outs, I've got your back, or team blank, team fill in anything. And so when life is good, a person wants to be on team whatever it is. But when things get challenging, it can be a relief to not be on that team. And we say things like, not my circus, not my monkeys. And we just like, it's very relieving. So I don't know if you guys have thoughts on other phrases that kind of capture that, but they're so, I mean, they're just everywhere all the time.
That I would say about my own experiences, I could not see triangles.
Mm.
I mean, for a very, very long time. I'm talking a couple of years. And so I would hear people talk about the triangles in their family and their original triangle, and that they were in this situation, literally blank.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
with the families that we're from and the fusions that we see or don't see in those families. And then one day I saw something, and then I never stopped seeing them again. And I went to my coach years later and I said, it took me 2 or 3 years to even see what people were talking about. And he said, at least you admit it.
That's so true, Kathleen. I have been really excited when other people say this. I know we just had Dan Papero come talk at Living Systems, and he will say often that he still to this day struggles to see a triangle. And for me, the reason I put those questions in there is I think my resistance to looking at triangles was I really like being on the inside in my system. I like being a part of that piece. So I almost think it was this resistance to say, I don't want to look at a different way that this could be done. I don't want to think about this in that way. So it was useful for me to ask that question of what is it like to have something going on in the family and me just manage not knowing everything about it.
Well, I'll give you an example of this. Recently with Thanksgiving, there was this sudden impromptu gathering of my entire extended family in Cleveland. And I was at my husband's family in Virginia. This was a very last minute thing where everyone was there except me.
Ooh.
I love to be in the know. And I'm the third of 4 children. It was easy for me to hide out and know what was going on and kind of move around the system. But there is a physiology to not being in the know and not being present. So there can be, I believe, as much reactivity in the triangles if you're not there as if you are there. So I then saw some of the family members the following week, and my 2 nephews who are in their late 30s said, so did that drive you crazy, Aunt Kathleen? I said, oh my God, it was just so damn painful. And they said, we knew it. We knew it. We knew it start to finish. And then they said, and so then when your sister left and we were not all together in the pack, did your FOMO go down? I said, instantly it went down. Yeah. And I thought, well, they're getting a little bit of this theory in the next generation.
Yeah.
To know how difficult it is not to be in the know, to your point, Katie.
I appreciate that you just named FOMO, because I think that's another little way to think about how, the modern just words that we say really speaks to that, right? I am feeling the fear of missing out. I just joke about that's one of the way I see this coming multi-generationally in my family. My daughter has such an intense FOMO that I laugh because she doesn't like to go to bed because she thinks we're doing real exciting things downstairs. And I'm like, it's not exciting down here.
Right. Well, let me throw in Dr. Bowen's pitch, and I went and watched the Chalk Talks this morning, and he talked about this is constantly, the movement in triangles is constant. It's predictable, but it's moment to moment constant movement. So he says within the family emotional system, the emotional tensions shift about in an orderly series of emotional alliances and rejections. The basic building block in an emotional system is the triangle. In calm periods, two members of the triangle have a comfortable emotional alliance, and the third, in the unfavored outside position, the outsider position moves either towards winning favor or towards rejection. And in tension, the outsider is the favored position. And then Dr. Kerr had a really great one. People's actions in a triangle reflect their effort to assure their emotional attachments to important others, their reactions to too much intensity, and their taking sides in others' conflicts. Anxiety generated by anticipating being or by being the odd man out is a potent force in triangles.
There we go. There's the FOMO.
And the anticipation, in any relationship, one-to-one or in the triangles, people will anticipate that you're going to react this way. Yeah. And so that the anxiety with which something is presented or delivered can be quite heightened in expectation of some past threat or experience, which is not at all relating to the present situation.
Yeah. And even others anticipate like you were saying about your family members just knew.
And from years ago, before people ever work at Bowen theory, and then they work at it for 20 years, the family can still expect you to be like you were 20 years before.
Right.
And I think that's just important to always keep in mind in our interactions. Yeah. I really find triangles to be so extremely useful on a day-to-day basis that, let's say that a mother and her daughter have a scratchy relationship, but the mother and the grandchild have a very close relationship. And so there we've got this triangle. Mm-hmm. And there's so many versions of this. It can be a partner and his wife. All they do is talk about one of their relatives forever and ever and ever, and just how terrible this person is. And one day the partner says, I'm acting very immaturely. I really have to get a better relationship with that relative. And they start to put an effort in. And the partner is left in the dust. They have 15 years of gossip that has been downloaded on them. And they'll often show up in the clinician's office and say, what do I do now? Mm-hmm. My partner has been bad-mouthing this relative forever. I can't stand this person. Now they're in a love fest. And what do I do with myself? So I think it is so interesting, and it makes such a difference if a close family member comes to you with a problem about a third. How do you position yourself? It can be very subtle. It can be, yeah, I know how they are. Yeah. That's a strong message. Or it can be objective. Tell me more. What are you struggling with? And how do I really, really work then to put them together in my head? Even if I think, oh, this is never going to work out. Right. I regulate that, but think. Always be looking for the third. Yeah. So anyway, I just think once I saw them, you can practice this in the grocery store or at church, anywhere.
I think that's so important, is anywhere you can practice this. And, for me, triangles are where I end up in a place of discomfort and can't figure out what's going on. And this is where I know we're talking about coaching later, but this is where coaching has been just so useful to me, to just have the question of the triangle put to my brain when I think, why am I feeling so stirred up? And I can't think of a reason that I'm feeling this way, and to really be able to think about, oh, right. I say that quite often. I always joke that I have to learn lessons a million times. Oh, right. It's the triangle. Oh, right. I'm thinking about this triangle that's gotten stirred up that I just wasn't thinking about.
Well, Katie, it's a good example too, because you'll go into a family situation with a plan. Let's say a person has made a plan in the office of a coach. Mm-hmm. And they think, oh, this is going to be great. This is what I'm going to do when I get there and how I'm going to function. But they're not expecting the triangles to activate. As soon as you walk into the emotional field, what you just described, people get stunned, like, whoa. And their plan goes out the window. And maybe they had a plan with their partner, and we're going to take a walk and we're going to do something with the kids while we're at the extended family. And that's gone.
Yeah.
As they walk in, and their mother says, oh, we're going to do this, this, and this, and then we're going to dinner. And the person ditches their partner and any plan they had in the coach's office, and they fight the whole time they're there. They're not thinking.
Never happened.
Kathleen, were you at my Thanksgiving this year? Because I think you literally just described what happened.
I know I wasn't at mine.
Right.
So say more, Katie.
I think that's what I walked into. I walked into thinking that I was really clear that I wanted, I always carve out time to spend with my husband. And about 4 days in, we got into a fight that I was just ignoring him. And I thought, yeah, here I am. I had these good intentions and they went out the window.
You just ditched your
Right.
man.
I did. For the comfort and demands of the family.
Yeah. It's so automatic. It's scary.
Yeah. So I said we can practice this again and again and again. That's what I keep saying to myself.
Gilbert used to say, there'll be lots of chances to fail. Don't worry about it.
I love that.
My example was, pretty low stakes, but just sort of highlights how I can become a 12-year-old sort of at any given moment of my life. So this summer, there was a new person at our church and she had moved to town. And I thought, oh, great, our family's going up to the national park. I'll invite her along. We're meeting another family. And we have this great day together. But then our family decides we want to stay a little bit later. And so I kind of talked to this girl and the other family. And I said, do you think, could you drive so-and-so home? I do have their permission to tell the story, by the way. I live in a small town. And so they drove, no problem. They drove this girl home. We get to church next Sunday and she's sitting with that family. And my thought was, well, she was going to be my friend. What's going on? And, we're all friends. It's all great. But that was like the immediate thought in my head was just like, I thought I was on the inside and now I'm.
That's so interesting, Dixie, because what I read when I was preparing for this, the word that I kept reading that I hadn't really thought of before was rejection, how that outside position really feels like rejection. And so that was my useful learning as I was reviewing this. But now I'm going to tell my example and my funny story. As I said, when I was trying to think of what is the best way that I see clinically to think about inside or an outsider situations. And I was thinking of step families. And so I'm doing this work on step families. And I'm like, what, in that Triangles book, there's a great chapter on step families. And I go and I think I'm going to go and look at that. And I thought, oh my goodness, Kathleen, you are the one who wrote that great chapter on step families. But I just think step families are such a challenge because it is that constant dance of who's on the that loyalty, who's on the inside, who's on the outside, what gets stirred, the challenge of, having a position with your spouse and the children from different marriage and your ex-spouse and the extended family. I think it just is one way that you see this acting out so much.
Oh, exponential triangles. And Bowen given me such a leg up for step families because it's just a whole different way of thinking about the broader system and the invisible triangles of the other home and the other people and those who have died and those who have lived. And, it's complicated.
Yeah.
And so you see the most confident people brought to their knees in a step family because it's not for the faint of heart, as they say. And
it is not.
There's a lot of data, but it's very exciting if a person can think systems. Then it becomes very, very interesting. And especially, I think the one-to-one connections, as theory would say, that person-to-person relationship with as many people as you can get about the history, about the loyalties, about, what has come before and what is the person up against. So yes, that's another whole conversation.
Yeah, that could probably be an episode in and of itself, but I just had to laugh that I thought I had forgotten you were the one that wrote that lovely, useful chapter.
Well, it was a a 5-minute paper that I gave at the Bowen Center called Stepmother, Stepdaughter, Step by Step, because I'm both a stepmother and a stepdaughter. And Peter Teitelman was there and said, would you write a chapter? And I was like a deer in the headlights. And so I just said, yes, no thinking. And so then I had to do it. But it became very helpful to me to do it. So yes, that was me. That was not a ghostwriter.
And a resource to others.
Well, I hope so. It's two of the most rewarding relationships of my life. My stepdaughter and my stepmother were the hardest, really to think about in the beginning and figure out a way to manage myself. Talk about not being in the know.
Yeah.
Not in the inside position on a regular basis in stepfamilies.
Yeah.
So Bowen theory guides you back to your original family and, what is the person used to there in the relationships?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dixie, I don't want to move to an animal example, but I have one when you're
Perfect.
next.
Do it.
Well, one of the places I most learned about the outside position was with my dog Spirit. He was from the Guide Dogs to the Blind. And we went to hospice every week to visit people. And in the beginning, he was they call him Goldador, a golden retriever Labrador mix. He was very smart, and he did not make guide dog status because all he wanted was to be petted. So he was a very, very good therapy dog. In the first few years, I would guide him around to the different rooms, and I would decide when to leave the room. And one day I said, what is your principle, Kathleen, when you come here and you're the handler? You're the handler, and you're not letting him do his work. He knows things you don't know, and you are guiding him. He's supposed to be guiding you. So I changed everything. And I let him decide where to go, how long to stay, who to visit, family member, patient. So one day he went in and he used to put his paws on the bed so the person didn't have to lean over. And he would lay on their chest, and he was laying on this woman's chest for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I was working at differentiation. Regulate, stay here, Kathleen, sit, stay, like me.
Right.
Finally, we got up and off the bed, and we went on our way down the hall. And one of the members followed me down the hall, and she said, I don't think you know what was going on there. I said, I don't. I just know he lets me know when his work is done. That's what I know. And if he sees me start moving, he'll follow me. So I just managed myself. She said, wow, our family member loved dogs. And she was naming the dogs. You heard her voice. We were putting our relatives on the phone, which in the old days, I would have said, this family's busy, we better go. And what she said is that she felt Spirit. She hadn't talked in 2 days, and we were putting people on the phone who never thought they'd hear her voice again.
Wow.
That's what was going on there. And I thought, oh my gosh, the outside position in that function as a handler to a therapy dog taught me from then on so many things that I would not have known if I was guiding the ship. So that's the end of that example.
But I think the other thing that I'm going to draw out from that example, Kathleen, that I think so useful is that there is the inside position can be such a resource in people's functioning as well, and to know, that intense connection isn't always a bad thing if it really helps someone go through something challenging. I think that story is such a nice way to think about that resource that person felt. We all borrow self from time to time, and it's not always a bad thing to think about. That's how I think about it, to think about it as a resource to aid in someone's functioning. If you're doing it all the time, maybe we'll have a different conversation, but that is such, I just heard that resource in that story.
And Katie, I think that that's right. I think that too many people talk about overfunctioning in ways that it's not overfunctioning. And it is connection. And it is to be present to family members, and that families need responsible people in them. Someone long ago said, stop talking about overfunctioning. Families need responsible people. And there's a difference in those two things. So I think that that's accurate.
Yeah.
And the principled position that you took that allowed you to step back and let that happen. It makes me think of, I have all grown children now, and I kind of move to the outside a little bit as they find their people and their relationships. Man, it's hard because they have a very wise mother who would love to. and my discomfort comes from, yeah, maybe being on the outside, and maybe that is just how it's supposed to be, or how do I think through my discomfort? I mean, that would be one of my big useful things, is just knowing these inside outside positions, and oh yeah, I'm on the outside here. This is what I'm feeling is predictable, is very different than me just, I don't know, losing it.
No, because it's at the heart of the matter for differentiation of self, is to tolerate what you just described.
Yes.
And to be in that position as children become young adults and then choose partners, etc. It's such an attractive place to be for them, because then they seek you out,
Right.
day. And they know that you have made room. They know, without even putting words to it, that you have made room for their new life.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that's a big attraction to young people.
That made me think of a story I wasn't even going to tell, that one of my dad's friends told me at his funeral, when he said he has daughters that are about a generation below me and my sisters. And he came up to me and said, your dad was such a resource to me to have a generation older. And he said, he was thinking about the partner. He said, my daughter's dating this real challenging, he used other words, guy. And he said, what did you do? And my dad said to him, or this is what he told me, that, they had some bumps along the way, but I trusted that they were going to see through that. And they all ended up choosing really good partners for them. And I thought, that's it, right? Like the ability to kind of manage an outside, watch a process as a parent, not get too involved. I mean, I'm sure there were times he had choice things to say to me about my partners, but that, I thought that's what that made me think about, is in the parental triangle, watching that and being interested in it.
And you're describing that he had the confidence to know that the decisions were not his, but they were yours, and that they would be good ones.
Yeah.
Even if he thought they weren't good ones. I think it's a real art as a parent to let go of that and say, these are people I might not choose, but I trust my adult children to make good decisions.
Yeah.
My husband and I sat down Saturday morning and watched your Family Matters episode about young adults leaving home. We'll link that, because man, some good questions. And I mean, if we think about, I have so many takeaways, but thinking about, am I responding in this moment the way out of my own principles, or am I responding out of the comfort or discomfort of the position that I'm in? That has been very helpful. And do I do it? No. not every time.
That's okay. Mine kind of builds on that, where I said my takeaway, one of my questions was, where am I at? Like, can I stop and ask myself a question on, can I think about where I am in this triangle right now, or where I'm positioned? And then following that, where is my work? I think different people have different work in triangles. As you just heard, my work is kind of, can I manage the discomfort of being on the outside? And that might be very different from someone who I'm sitting in clinical work with, who really has to work at staying in contact, being, being connected, being on the inside with someone.
Those are both good. My takeaway was, what does it take to see and regulate my own reactivity? And how can I be a benefit to self and others by always looking around for the triangles? They're everywhere. They're just everywhere.
Yeah. Dixie, can I throw in two? So I do want to, I'm holding up the book for the people that are seeing it. This Triangles edited volume by Titleman has so many useful resources of different ways of thinking about triangles that I just wanted to make sure. I don't know if we plugged it on the last time. And the other small plug I'm going to make is, for those who haven't read it yet, Dan Papero, in the latest edition of the Family Systems Journal wrote an article on triangle theory that it's really like got me thinking. So maybe we can link that in for people to take a look at his most recent. I mean, he's thought a lot about triangles, and that article about thinking about how important the triangle is in Bowen theory and how it links to the other concepts and really shows the functioning of the family, I thought was really useful. So those are my two, if you want to learn more.
And for like I would say everyday person kind of resource, just the other week I just went to Kathleen Smith Anxious Overachiever Substack account and I just searched triangle and I pulled up a pile of articles to send to a client, and of course, like, I mean, just pick any movie, any TV show, and pick 3 people and who's on the inside, who's on the outside. I searched like famous movies with love triangles, right? Like it's just,
every movie,
everything. Yeah. Kathleen, do you have anything else to add? It was just like rapid fire here. So many things to think about.
I would say look to nature. The triangles are everywhere in nature, and they're so the automaticness of them. Go to a dog park and watch each dog who enters and what the pack does in terms of that entry and making a statement without words, just stating many things that are unspoken.
Right.
So nature, I would say, and take a look.
Super. Well, thank you so much for being here, Kathleen. We'll have you again at the end of the season on, is it coaching? Yeah. And yeah, I hope that people have taken away some useful things to think about triangles as you go out into your relationships.
Going out.
Yes.
This podcast is produced by Living Systems, a nonprofit organization in Vancouver offering counseling and training programs in Bowen family systems theory across Canada.